If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. What's going on, Knuckleheads? Welcome to the FightersRep video podcast. I'm your host, the FightersRep, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not really going to be predicting any fights today or discussing any fights today per se. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be, and what I meant was reacting, not discussing, but we are going to be discussing the Joanna Jedrzejczyk versus Weili Zhang fight because, let's face it, I think there was a lot of controversy surrounding that fight. I kind of wanted to give my opinion of the fight and get your opinion of the fight, open up the forum to the Knucklehead Nation community, see what you guys think. But more than anything, in this fight, I think it was a huge reminder that bloodlust sometimes, the bloodlust, the thirst for combat and action sometimes clouds our judgment. And, obviously, a lot of people will not agree with me on my opinion of this fight because a lot of people saw the fight as a close fight, and even the judges, scored it a close fight. It went all 5 rounds, and even the judges, I believe they scored it a split decision. But that being said, that is not what I saw on Saturday night at UFC 248. I did see a war, and I did see a Joanna Jedrzejczyk that kept firing back throughout the entirety of the fight. But one thing that I saw that really caught my attention and bothered me was the fact that Joanna Jedrzejczyk's shots on Weili Zhang were nowhere near as effective as Weili Zhang's shots against Joanna. It became apparent right at the outset that we had somebody who was throwing pity-pat punches versus a person who could actually punch in Weili Zhang. And there were maybe a couple moments in the entirety of the fight where Joanna landed and it maybe knocked Weili off balance, but I never at any point felt like Weili was getting hurt by the shots. With regards to Joanna, on the other hand, I felt like when Weili Zhang was landing her shots on her, she was getting hurt. Joanna was getting hurt. Her head was snapping back hard. And as we can see, the accumulation of those massive shots from Joanna Jedrzejczyk manifested themselves in the form of a massive hematoma on her head and a completely crooked nose. And by the end of the fight, and I would say probably by the 4th round, she started to become disfigured to the point where she wasn't really recognizable. And a lot of the people will point to the articles that came out between yesterday and today showing that Joanna Jedrzejczyk exited the hospital without any significant injuries. But my point in making this video is, why would that fight, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I could completely be off about this, but I'm just expressing my opinion, and then we'll open up the floor to everybody else's opinion. But why would anybody allow a fight like that to continue to go on, right? And what I mean is, so they were both throwing a lot of volume, and Joanna Jedrzejczyk is known for her volume, the volume of her striking. She just keeps coming and keeps throwing. But Weili Zhang was throwing a lot too. They were both throwing high volume. The difference is Weili Zhang's shots were doing damage, and Joanna's weren't. So, at least in my opinion. So why would the referee, the coaches, whatever, why would they allow that fight to continue for 5 rounds, having already seen the first 3.5 rounds? I mean, What were they hoping to get out of this fight? What kind of change were they looking for in this fight? Were they looking for Joanna to all of a sudden have more power in her shots and to be able to rock Weili Zhang? Because I just didn't see it. I didn't see it, and somebody told me recently as I was having this discussion on Facebook that Weili Zhang's trainer picked her up and carried her back to her corner at one point. But I mean, if you looked at her, she was all there. I think the trainer was probably more concerned with her, I don't know, maybe taking too many steps after, being hit so many times, or I don't know, maybe he thought she was off balance, or maybe he thought she was compromised, maybe he thought she was hurt. But if you looked at her, I mean, she looked totally fine. She was almost like it almost felt like she was shooing her trainer away, like, get off me. You don't need to be carrying me back to my corner. So, it begs the question for me, when a fighter is involved in a fight with another fighter and they're throwing the similar amount of strikes, right? But one fighter's obviously landing the more significant blows and doing the more damage, and it's going to go to decision. It just looks like it's going to go to decision. Why allow the fighter that's not landing the significant blows, that's just eating all of these blows, and that is now, like Joanna was in the fight, disfigured? Why allow that fight to continue? And it's just something, that I felt strong enough about to make this video because, the last thing I want to see promoting a fight is a fighter who, again, and we've had this conversation recently with the Wilder Fury fight. The last thing you want to see is a fighter who's too tough for their own good, basically get permanently damaged or hospitalized. I mean, I just don't see the point in allowing Joanna to continue that fight all the way to a decision. If I was in her corner, I would have probably said, okay, enough is enough. Her forehead, she's starting to look like an alien. Her nose is destroyed. There could be significant damage going on under that hematoma on her skull, which, let's not forget, encases your brain and controls all of your faculties and your ability to fight in the future. And so, I said to myself, I think if I were in that corner or if I were the referee, I would have probably stepped in and said, maybe between the third and the fourth round, and said, enough is enough. I mean, even in the beginning of the fifth round, right? Even if you wanted to let it go to the beginning of the fifth round, at least you save the fighter from that sort of damage. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me again because the fight was allegedly close according to the judges, but I didn't think the fight was close. I thought Weili Zhang was dominating that fight. I thought she was landing the much more damaging strikes. And I thought the compassionate, safe, smart thing to do would have probably been to throw in the towel at some point, or to tell Joanna Jedrzejczyk, hey, enough is enough. You could be, receiving brain damage at this point with all the shots you've taken. So that's my opinion. If this is your first time tuning in, be sure to hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. We also do it immediately after the big fights. So thank you for tuning in. Jamaican in the chat, and he writes in the chat, Joanna Space Alien Jedrzejczyk. And you know what? You can't really disagree with Jamaican there. She did look like a space alien at the end of that fight, man. And it's funny, but it's not funny, right? Because she could have gotten really hurt. And, you got to at some point start thinking about these people's life in the long term, their family. Will they be able to enjoy the future, the fruits of their labor in the future, spending their whole life fighting and training? The last thing you want to see is someone end up in a wheelchair or something crazy. I mean, I remember the hematoma really, sort of called out to me, I guess, because I remember when Magomed Abdusalamov, who was actually a friend of mine, when he fought, I believe it was Mike Perez at Madison Square Garden, and it was supposed to be an eliminator to fight Vladimir Klitschko. That was his last fight. He had a hematoma in that fight, took some damage, and, unfortunately ended up, crippled for life. He was in a vegetative state at some point. I think he's improved very gradually. And, obviously I wish him the best and pray for him, but that's not what you want to see, and sometimes I feel like those hematomas can be indicative of something real serious. And I mean, especially if it's right on your forehead. I mean, where are these shots, these massive shots that Weili Zhang, where are they going to land? They're probably going to land here to the already damaged and compromised skull of Joanna Jedrzejczyk. And I don't know. I just don't see what the point was in allowing that fight to continue. Jamaican in the chat says, I scored the fight 4-1 for Weili. Joanna was busy, but Weili was landing the harder shots. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I actually, I felt like it was probably 4-1 or closer to a shutout. And I think, yes, that people were enthralled by the action and the bloodlust. But at some point, we have to still understand that this is a sport. And we have to understand that people's lives and livelihoods are on the line. And our entertainment is never going to be worth more than the health of these fighters. And that's why I would have really appreciated that fight getting stopped. Either by, by the referee or by, or by the trainers for Joanna, who I think really dropped the ball there. I'd love to know what their thought process was. Do they think she was winning that fight? Did they think she was eventually going to land something that was going to, put her back in the fight? Did they think she was going to do a better job of taking damage as the fight went on? I'm really having trouble with this one, and I really don't understand why anybody would allow Joanna to continue with that fight. So, knuckleheads, that's my opinion on that. If you're going to be watching this on the replay, obviously you could like, comment, share, do everything that good people on YouTube do. If it's your first time here, again, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon next to it. And, get yourself a Fighters Rep t-shirt below or donate to the Super Chatter in the links below. Anything you guys donate helps me continue to build Fighters Rep promotions. I am happy to say we had a sold-out show at the last show. It was freaking amazing. And we've already begun to match the next event. So definitely get at us if you're interested in fighting. You're anywhere near Southern California. You can reach us at our email address at info@FightersRep.com. That's info@FightersRep.com. You can also reach out to us on Instagram at FightersRep, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. It's all FightersRep. If you send us a message, it'll get to us right away, and we'll know you're interested in competing. And you can also now buy tickets in the links below to FightersRep 10. The fight poster is in the process of being made, so that should be out soon. But you could definitely get tickets to FightersRep 10. Come out and enjoy what I think are the most action-packed fights in combat sports. Manny Robles was at the last show. He was my special guest there. It was awesome having him and Estrellita and kind of cross-promoting with boxing, getting some boxing heads in there. So, definitely come out, check us out. That's going down May 29th at FightersRep.com is where you can get your tickets, and the fights are going down in Seal Beach, California. And of course, if you can't make it, you could always tune in live and free right here on YouTube to watch our fights. That being said, we will be uploading a couple more fights tonight. So, definitely be on the lookout for those, and you want to check those fights because they were actually a really good fight. So those should be uploaded maybe a little bit after this video gets posted. But anyway, knuckleheads, thank you so much for your time. Be sure to join us on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific and Friday again, of course, immediately after the big fights. Until next time, knuckleheads, keep it clean. I'm the Fighters Rep, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.